DreamHack ASTRO Open is brought to you by ASTRO, Monster Energy, Corsair, Zowie, Intel, and Lenovo Legion.
Welcome back to the DreamHack ASTRO Open in Montreal, brought to you in part by Monster Energy, Zowie, Corsair, Intel, and Lenovo Legion. We have an excellent tournament so far. Pretty much a straight-up beat down there from Cloud9 over onto Complexity. 16-5 on the train, which will propel us forward to our next matchup. Gale Force Esports versus Team North, and as you can see them setting up right now, I am your host, Stunna, and I am here on the desk with my friends and colleagues, Pimp and Hazed. What's up, guys?
Not much.
Yeah, I'm expecting another stomp. Let's just say that.
Just another one right out of the gate.
Maybe a worse one.
So the reality of this is, right, these guys were just held up in customs, and you know, it that alone with a travel day and all that coming together, it could be a real rough one for Gale Force, not to mention the fact that you're already playing North, and North is hot right now.
For sure. It's pretty much the worst. Like, if you take all the circumstances you could, it's pretty much the worst like level up to a game that you could potentially have, you know. Being stuck in customs, not knowing if you're gonna play the game or not, like not knowing if you're gonna enter or not, that's never fun. I tried it before myself as a player to a tournament, you know, so it's not a fun situation to be in. And knowing that you're going up against North, who were so close to winning DreamHack Masters Malmö, which was the first like major tournament after the player break, there's not much hope for them. There
was indeed a lot to prove in Malmö, and I do believe that there's still a lot to prove here, and more so if you're a team like Gale Force. What do we know about Gale Force, guys?
Good question. I don't know anything about them. I know they've been in NA for maybe over a year now. I'm not sure how long, but they have yet to make any, you know, big waves in the scene, and I'm not honestly expecting it to start here, to be honest.
Hey, never say never, am I right?
All right, Bieber.
All right. Okay. All right. We went that route. I'm kidding. Well, Gale Force got their work cut out for them. And again, I want to remind the users at home, if you're watching this on Twitch chat, if you're getting your Kappas in there, if you're getting your spam emotes, go ahead and vote on this matchup using ! and then the corresponding team, which will be either North or Gale Force. That's how you process your vote. And I think I'd ask you guys for your votes, but I'm pretty sure we already know that this is probably going to be a clear-cut case of, you know, the North.
Unless Marquis can find some extreme like level out on nowhere, then I think yes, you know. He's the only player we know though. Like he played in NRG for, was it half a year or something, and did actually play okay, I'd say. Like he got a lot of criticism, and maybe some of it was fair enough. But I also believe that he did a decent job considering the circumstances he was in that team. I remember him playing in Rank S as well. The individual skill is definitely there. It's just everything else that might be missing.
Well, first off, let's focus on North. Okay, we'll get into the whole stream watching scenario because we know it's happened. You can't deny it at this point. That's certainly a talking point. But North, a talking point on their own. Now we've got players like Config who can run around and just deagle people at his leisure. Talk to me about North, Pimp.
Yeah, it's like this Danish lineup. I used to be a part of it myself back when they were called Dignitas, so I know them quite well. MSL, the in-game leader, brought in Valde on screen right now as the new addition instead of Magic Boy after the player break. A lot of rumors is flying around why, and they themselves have been out saying we don't want to comment on it, which I think is a fair approach to have to it. Fact is that they brought in Valde because they didn't feel that Magic Boy were fitting into the team anymore, whatever that is in-game or out of the game. Remain to be said. But Valde had one hell of a tournament coming into North or with North at DreamHack Masters Malmö. And I think that's one of the talking points going into this game is this honeymoon they're in right now, honeymoon period they're in right now. MSL has shown it time and time again where he's good at integrating new players to his teams. You know, he usually starts off strong with the first month or two with his new rosters. Then they face some sort of like mid-term crisis, and then they get good again. You know, That's kind of the path he's had the last 2 or 3 years with his teams. You know, so I'm expecting that to be seen again now, and we just have to go down by the fact that North are playing great Counter-Strike right now.
Well, them having to get over that hurdle, get over that hump, and even in some ways get out of the shadow of Astralis, right? So they're, you know, in large part, it's kind of the battle for Denmark, who is the more dominant team. But in this situation, let's kind of flip the page and take a look at Gale Force, a largely unknown team. I do believe, with the Miami Flamingos beforehand. And then now coming into Montreal, they're set to make their premiere in the Mountain Dew League closer towards the end of the month. Not a whole lot to be known about this team.
Yeah, and there's a few names on the team that I know of. Chudy on screen right now is someone who goes back way back in 1.6. He was always a super talented player in terms of individual skill, but never played on any top teams or anything. He's more like a rank S kind of guy. He played in a lot of those pickup games with pros and always performed really well. And then obviously Marky, everyone knows, whether good or bad.
Yeah, former Energy. Yeah. They go to Copenhagen Games, I believe it was. They do not yield success. They actually it's a blunder.
It's a bomb.
And it's one of those where the team actually comes back and they're like, hey, this is not going to work. So you're benched, and we're going to bring in Little Man. And that's just the way it's going to be. So just an interesting path for Marky, right?
Yeah, and I do feel kind of bad for him because he does have that stigma around him of being a stream watcher, whether or not it's true. So he gets a lot of flack from the community for it, and it sort of makes sense to me.
Well, we're going to load up the vetoes now. We do see North going to go ahead and ban Cash. Is this surprising, Pimp?
It's not surprising after watching DreamHack Masters Malmo, because they changed their permaban from being train to Cash now. So they embraced the fact that they can play in train now, especially with Valde on the team. You also saw them play against SK Gaming and manhandle them 16-5, I think it was. So they can play train, and that's not a surprise anymore to see Cash being the first ban.
Well, Nuke is going to come out for the Gale Force side, followed by another ban from North, and it's going to be Overpass. It's kind of hard to determine what the map's going to be, am I right? Because we don't know, in large part, what Gale Force might have up their sleeve or might not have up their sleeve.
I think, I came into this knowing that Gale Force would ban Nuke, but I think it probably will end up on Cobble. That's what I was guessing. Both teams like Cobble. I wouldn't say Gale Force is good on it. I haven't really seen much of them. No one really has, especially against a Tier 1 team. But if I was Gale Force, I would definitely go for whatever map I think I'm best on. I'm not going to try and play it to their worst map, because odds are they're probably going to beat you on it. They're better.
Yeah. So, just an interesting approach, because, some teams elect to go the other route. They elect to go, hey, what's that team's weakest map? But we're looking at two totally different levels of play here.
Yeah, basically, that's the only chance they have to actually show something. They themselves are for sure not expecting to go in and beat North now. I've been in their position before, where you were like an up-and-coming team, and you went up against a team that you knew realistically you didn't stand a chance against. Obviously, you still have the mindset that you want to go in and do as well as possible, and anything is possible in Counter-Strike for sure. But they don't expect to win, So if they can have a good showing and maybe get into a best of 3 tomorrow, and actually show just a little bit of play and potential, then I think they'll be more than satisfied with the tournament. The approach North has to this veto as well is like they don't know what to expect either, So as long as they get one of their strong maps, they're totally fine with it.
Now, we can talk about config and how much shots he lands and how just insane this guy can go in the server. But when we look at this North lineup, what are some of the other players that we really see come full circle for this team? Valde, to me, Valdemort, right, kind of sticks out.
He's like the new guy on the block, right? And he has a lot of skill. He came from Heroic, where he was playing like some sort of lurk role, and he seemed to have found that role in North as well. So they tried to integrate him into the same role he had on Heroic, which definitely makes this transition for him much easier. And I think that's one of the points that MSL has been thinking about. They know they did I wouldn't say a poor job with Magic Boy, but they didn't make him fit to the team. So now they're trying a different route with Valde, and it seems like it's paying off so far.
Well, it is that time where I have to ask you guys what your predictions are, and we all know how the last one went. I have a prediction for this game too, and this is the first time in my life I've ever won anything. So I'm really happy to have won that. But let's just do it. Let's get a heavy hitter in there right now, Mr. Cobb. What do you got?
I don't see Gale Force getting very many rounds. I'm just gonna keep it simple. 16-4.
Okay.
For North.
And Pimp?
Yeah, I'm going down the same road as James. 16-5 for North. I don't think they have anything to actually go up against the likes of Config or Valde for that matter.
Well, I'm going to have to side on that of a 16-6, which means ultimately if they go above, no matter what, I'm right. I think it's like the Price is Right.
Whatever, man. You can have it. I don't care.
Whatever, dude. We don't have one of those cool trophies like they had in Malmo. I don't even know if that was cool, but it was strange.
I had it. I won it.
You did? Where's that?
I didn't.
I would have put that thing right
Yeah, I
Weird.
think the prize was to get my face on the trophy, so I'm not sure I actually won anything.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Well, we're going to bring in our commentators now, kind of get their side of it, too. I mean, we let them play the prediction game sometimes, too, but...
Yeah, and you know what, Stunna?
What's up, dog?
Price is wrong, bitch. 16-7. I got the over now.
All right.
Wow.
Joke's on you, Sid, because I get to predict last. But
It's fine. I just really wanted to get the Happy Gilmore line in there.
Yeah, I
really
I
why
applaud
I did that.
I think line of the show thus far. What do you got, Scrawny?
I'm not going to give you a number because I don't want
Wow.
the Argentinians to hate me.
Well, I don't know that you can play with
Well,
it.
so I still have the over then, so
Yeah.
I win. Well, maybe. I'll probably lose. But
This is called a tag team.
Yeah, that
that's
would
not usually what I refer to.
that would
in,
explain the matching
yeah.
shirts, but I don't know. The masks you guys are wearing in the green room are kind of strange. I don't know about that Captain Insano stuff you're doing back there.
Oh, I'll show you what I do to the bad guys.
Well, either way, I think this one's a pretty clear-cut case of just North taking it.
I think so. I mean, it would be look, Cloud9's favorite one, if you will, and North's favorite two, and not necessarily in that order. But yeah, they're the two heavy hitters in this tournament you have to watch for.
Yeah, no matter who was going to be going up against North, I think I would have given them the edge to win it out. So the fact that Gale Force is their opponent right now is just not looking good for them.
Do you guys know what a Gale Force is?
What?
It's like a wind.
Yeah.
It's a Gale Force.
I thought you were gonna like give me some crazy
Yeah, I was waiting for the
dictionary
back- Nah,
definition or
I
something.
thought about looking it up, and then I kind of forgot, actually.
the walking Wikipedia. Well, I think at this point we're just gonna give it to you guys. For
Thanks.
what it's worth.
Appreciate that. Pleasure to take it from you, Trance Trey. Wow, Trance is a whole other guy in esports, and he's not at this event, thankfully. It means I might actually get some sleep. How are you feeling about this one, Scrawny? Obviously not too optimistic for Gale Force.
No, I want to be ambitious. I want to be on their side. You know, I love a good underdog story, but I think that
This would be like, this would be more than an underdog story. This would be...
the upset of 2017.
Yeah, I'd be confident in agreeing with that, actually, if they were able to pull this off. I know it's best of one, I know it's group stage, but yeah, that's more than underdog. This is going to be a large task for them. Good experience for them, obviously, and coming out, obviously, they were Blue is telling me all sorts about their history. They won the World Cup. Part of this lineup did, not this exact 5. That happened. I believe that event happens in Serbia every year. Is that correct?
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
correct, in Belgrade.
TWC 2016.
Yeah, well, exactly, and then of course they played in Miami for a while, so they've been familiar with North American soil, but they've had to climb the ranks. They didn't come over with stature and poise, having already won multiple tournaments, and get injected into sort of a pro league situation such as SK did, such as Immortals did, although they had to work for it a little bit as well. These guys had to start from the bottom,
Yeah, I mean,
which is what another Canadian guy did once, and now he's here.
once upon a time. I mean, that's one of the funny things, right, actually, is that the TWC 2016 was my very first event that I casted, and I met each and every one of these guys, or three of the 5 that now remain, and now look at that, we're all...
Do they speak
we're all
English?
here. So Johnny Boy speaks English well enough. I believe that Teuton also does. Their most fluent English speaker, barring Marky, would actually be their coach, which is something that I think a lot of players don't really give credit to with Gale Force. Kamikaze is one of those guys that's just dedicated to his craft, takes it very seriously, and kind of holds like a certain level above his players that where they respect him. So he has input. He has some.
It's important, I think, that someone on the lineup does, and if someone was going to speak English, the coach is probably a good one because he could sort of work with other teams should he elect to do so, look into some metagame, and in practices they can kind of learn from that, and he can pass it on to all of them. So it's actually kind of nice that the coach is the one that speaks English if what you say is true.
Yep. So yeah, you're right. I mean, you talk about how they had to show up to North America and put in their work, right? The first season that they move here in NA, they're actually in Open, ESEA Open. They top the entire division. They get immediately thrown into Premier, and people question that move up because it was all the way from Open. You could argue there were certain main teams that deserved it, and that because they were doing that like South America, North America gap, they were favored. That wasn't the case. They open up on Premier League with 2 losses right away, and everybody thinks like, oh, this was a fluke, like they don't deserve it. And then they actually finish top 3 in the regular season. It's a shame that they fall short in the playoffs and that they're not going to be at the Mountain Dew League LAN finals. Not that LAN is for a promotion.
No,
to Pro League.
that's a lot of people don't realize that that LAN itself is strictly for that league. That is not a relegatory LAN, which I think if they could make it into one, if they wanted to bring the bottom teams from Pro League down to that league or that event, and then it could actually kind of maybe blow it up on a more of an interested or invested viewership level. But either way, just you're right to clear that up.
So I mean, like that's the thing, right? Is like Gale Force have been here, they've been putting in their work. They missed this opportunity, but I see that as like as an at least situation. They now have a season of Premier level play under their belt, and going into the next season, that one is for promotion. They'll be playing for that position. So there's no shame in being an event like this. If anything, it's just the next step for them. although, you would have hoped to maybe be playing against Complexity as opposed
well,
to...
that's how seedings are going to work, though, and that's why each of these teams have had these matchups coming into this. You're right, it is the next step for them. It may not seem overly logical immediately to jump into that level of depth or into an event like this for a team that hasn't really proven themselves greatly, but it's going to happen. It's a crowded landscape. The more experience they can get from this, the more they can take back to Premier. I think that needs to be, so it's kind of interesting. We often talk about online leagues being backburnered, if you will, or just kind of part of what they do, but not the focus for a lot of teams. And then that's true if you're a tier 1 team and you get to go to multiple events. Those are obviously the focus, and you kind of take for granted the Pro League and maybe not put as much effort into it, or you get distracted and don't get to practice or prepare enough for it. Travel gets in the way. For these guys, I would say it should be the opposite. They should be focusing on Premier League. They should be trying to break through that league. Getting into the relegatory positions, like you say, into a Pro League position, that will open up more doors for them. But so rather than learn from Pro League and use the online as a preparation for events, they should almost be using the events to learn from experience to prepare for the online. That needs to be an objective to climb the ladder.
Yeah, no, I definitely I mirror that sentiment. What is a shame, though, for, of course, Gale Force in this situation is that they're not playing with Tommy. He's one of their more regular players, and he's been replaced for this event by Chudy. Now, again, Chudy has a lot of experience, as Hayes was speaking about on the desk, but Tommy's really been there as a placeholder. He was one of the original 3 from that run at TWC that really kind of cemented this lineup on an international level, and I think that he definitely brings a lot to the table in terms of rifling. As far as an op goes for Gale Force, Johnny Boy is going to be quite impactful if he's having a good day. I kind of see Johnny Boy along the lines of Peter, where if he's on point, then he carries games, and if he's not there, the team seems to struggle.
So normally going against Cajun B, I would say that's fine, because Cajun's not the most assertive AWP player, but I actually think, take what you will from it. North had a great Malmo, obviously. Valda played excellent. I think that was one of Cajun's best events, start to finish. It was some of the most consistent Counter-Strike I've seen him play. He was very, very aggressive in multiple situations, had a number of good ratings. Don't ask me to quote which ones. I know in one particular game on Train, I think he had something like 27, 28 kills. That's not normal Cajun B output. He's normally consistent, but not a breakout consistency, if that makes sense. That kind of is a catch-22. I know what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is he's always reliable. Yep. But he's never someone that controls the pace of a game. Occasionally you'd see it from him. Occasionally you'd see the other side of it. I remember one particular half in a PGL kickoff season in which he started on Dust 2 0-15, and they ended up winning the game, and I think he only got 4 kills, and he was laughing about it after, which is great because he's an experienced player and can laugh it off. But it was something that used to be sort of a little asterisk beside Cajun's name, like, is he going to eventually be a breakout and impact player as a premier and leading AWP role? I think the last event at Malmo, he showed that he can be, and was, I think, very impressive.
I mean, it's scary to think of a North that have that in their pocket, because even without him being that kind of breakout star, they certainly don't need him. They have already incredible amounts of talent when they had the Config Magiskboy duo, and then I think that bringing in Valde is just a whole new beast. I mean, he as well had a great Malmo tournament.
I think that goes, again, we can't speak to, Henry touched on this, you can't really speak to what goes on inside of the team in all occasions, so you don't often know, communication issues? Is there arrogance or ego issues? Is someone just simply not getting along with anyone else? Is someone not practicing enough? There's all kinds of structural issues in teams, but just going out, yes, okay, he and Config could have been a 1-2 punch, and were a 1-2 punch at Epicenter last year when they won that event. The problem is that they had so much aggression on the team, and it seemed Magisk was so aggressive that people like AZ couldn't play a freestyle game. They had to play a structured game. They had to sit back, because it's similar to what SK happened and the growing pains they had when they had Phelps come in for FNX. Both he and Fur were so aggressive that people like Cold had to sit back because they couldn't afford to take risks if other people in the team were already doing it and already dying and giving away 5-on-3 situations. Now that they've brought in Valda, who seems to be a little more calculated in his aggression and a little bit more about taking appropriate aim duels and peaks and playing as a team player, that gives AZ a bit more freedom. And I think that what you're going to see is that I think North overall will become a better unit as 5 players. You may not get the same breakout potential that Magisk and Config had if they were both firing on all cylinders, but you certainly don't lose much in Valda, but you bring other players into it with them, which I think is more important in the long run.
By all means, again, it's just a roster right now, North, that you have to wonder how much do you attribute to that honeymoon period that Pimp was speaking of, and especially under MSL's guys who, has gone through that trend before. But I can't help but feel like this lineup is just going to continue its success and really become a beast. I mean, that's what they're coming into Montreal with, right? Is this idea that they are the favorites and that they can very much cement themselves with a win. So we'll see if they can kick it off in their opening match versus a unexpected opponent of Gale Force.
Chudy. The rest of his team head toward the B tunnels early with aggression, but no further movement. Config has gone all the way out at B. Vault did make contact behind smoke, knowing that there will be aggression inside of the tunnels, but Config going down. Okay, yes, information and early rotation, but overextension, because as soon as he goes down, immediately AZ and MSL have to rotate back. That gives time for Gale Force to slow and force rotations.
Of course, MSL to the top side of the A site does spot targets at the bottom, but he actually finds the headshot to Tootin before he can retreat. Now, he does get his utility off, and that does keep 2 players committed. So if Gale Force can entry into the B site, then they've got something. But Valda's got a headshot and a 3v3 now taken away. Gishoro dropping it just onto AZ.
Good shots from Gishoro. One at E and then one at Rock. AZ has to pull back in and a 1-on-3 with no kit. Good find on the first one on Marky. Doesn't take much damage either, so he's able to afford aggressive battles in each of the ensuing 1-on-1s as they sit right now. It's a 2-on-1 if he goes much beyond the point of the statue because the player along can peek. He's got himself back into safety, but Yoshiro plays very well overall in the round. 3 kills, all on entry, and then one of the post. Not bad at all for Gale Force to pick that back up. And it has to do, again, I mentioned it, Config. Goes aggressive, so much information. They start to go into a 4-1 setup. All he has to do is babysit long A and call if they rotate back. Instead, he engages in a duel, goes down, and that opens up everything because they pull 2 players back off B, creates the space on entry. And it wouldn't be a start to a game without a quick pause.
No, of course not.
So we had
Need a
last
little
time.
breather.
Actually, I called this pause just to keep tradition.
I appreciate that. You can actually see, or could see now that it's gone, Kamikaze behind the team. Right? He's one of those coaches that always constantly has like this thick notebook with all kinds of scribbles and notes on it. So again, this is a seasoned player that I know for a fact believes in like running all sorts of dry runs. There's one thing that I expect from Gale Force is going to be actually not making many mistakes. Because they should have these timings and these executions drilled into their brain if what Kamikaze tells me is actually truthful.
He's a liar.
Yeah, what I expect to go the way of North is just sheer individual skill. There's no argument for it to be the other way around. Gale Force are not as good of a team. But if they can minimize mistakes in a BO1 versus an opponent that has no clue who these guys are, I mean, it is just the pistol. I'll keep it cool, but part of me wants to believe.
Starting to believe. That's Alex reference.
Is it?
Yeah, his name's Alex Machine Richardson. He's normally a host. This week he's casting. I'm not sure if
I've heard of him.
familiar with him. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Someday.
I believe he's in Greece right now, isn't he?
Something like that. Yeah, slacking off, sitting by a pool, not doing any work. Trophy on stage with a nice plinth. It's all lit up, and we get back into the game quite quickly. Pistols, obviously, for North, having not won, but they force in on the CT side as best they can. Deagle for AZ, armor only for Valda. CZ continues to be weapon of choice, at least in most pistols as of late, based on the recent changes. Marky gets close to bottom middle with the UMP, another gun that had a nerf, or adjustment, I guess you could say, before the major that was not as noticeable at the time. I think as of late we're seeing more of, as we see now as well in Tootin, a Galil, the FAMAS is coming in for the range, but still I think a viable weapon in a lot of ways.
I think the MP7 can also start to bridge that gap, seeing as it does have an advantage at distance and still has solid armor pen. But I mean, Johnny Boy's got it. We saw one last game. We'll see if they can put in work. Should be easy, again, considering North had nothing coming into this round. Nobody was over towards the A site, so it makes complete sense that already Gale Force have pushed up on it. The one man with a deagle on APC was the single line of defense, and, well, it wasn't long for this world.
Anticipation from Johnny on the MP7 to spray into the smoke. Config not found. It's interesting that you say the MP7 could be transitioned in that way, and you're not wrong about the stats on it. Because at Malmo, I'm not saying there wasn't one in the entire tournament, I'm just saying I didn't see one, which was surprising. I think that's the first event ever that I didn't see an MP7 for the entirety of the event. I don't see it often, but to not see it for an entire event, it's kind of
I anticipate players that are good with the
unexpected.
Yeah, the players that are good with the SG to start investing into the MP7, because they actually have a near mirrored spray pattern. It's super simple.
So pretty much just Magisk Boy then.
Yeah.
He's the only one that went to the SG, and he kept talking about how it was so great in certain situations. I could see it on Dust Too Long maybe, but like we don't really have anywhere else that's that linear anymore. Maybe B-side of Cobblestone on the platform if you're CT side, but again, so much utility there. It's more about battling for position. He keeps saying it's so good, and then every time he brought it out, Henry used to be like, all right, I'm waiting for it, and then he would just die. So Don't think there's too many SG users.
Maybe one day. Of course, North just having to take one on the chin. They need to get these rounds out of the way so that they can invest. But they are going to get cheeky by boosting Config into the counter boost. Disturbs the players throwing nades, but ultimately Chudy gets the best of him.
If he had not been spotted early or taken the initial shot, he might have been able to catch off Chudy. John Boy. There's Johnny on the spot, jumps over top of MSL as AZ trades back. It's still the advantage for Gale Force. As much as we saw from Complexity, who were the underdogs previously, they won Pistol and the 3 ensuing rounds. That looks to be the same tale here against North. And Cobblestone as well. That's another thing we didn't mention. Letting North have Cobblestone
Is scary.
it's kind of signing your own death warrant, I think.
Kind of like letting Cloud9 have Train.
Yep, you could argue the same thing. You wouldn't be wrong in that assumption as we finish off the anti-ecos for Gale Force in style. They do lose 3 players. You do that again, and then when you say it. Gishoro, there we go, I got it. See, I knew it all along. He's got another 3 kills, so he's been looking really sharp, but now it's on to guns for North. The question is, how aggressive... Okay, so Config has the money for it. He buys it. They go double op in the first gun round. I wasn't sure that they were going to elect to go that route right away. And Config, remember, got caught out in the pistol. Yes, good positioning, but overcommitting to the duels perhaps with a bit of lack of respect towards Gale Force, so he needs to be careful about his decision-making as Chudy throws a rather lackluster flash.
Yeah, although there are some solid nades going into this B bomb site, and those smokes could definitely block off the vision of the double op, if that is the case. But we've got Gale Force now just dropping into drop down, where now the bomb's been thrown. MSL is able to catch 2 kills on the windowsill, leaving Gishoro try and trade, but it's the 3K for MSL instead. And now Gale Force, well, they're just left 2v5 on the opposite side of the site with no device to play off of.
Well, device is on Astralis, so that makes sense. I like how there's crickets in the game that actually matched that timing. That was very good. As MSL stands behind APC. Bomb, as you mentioned, already went down and drop and now sits in connector. Decision has to be made. There's a minute to work with, but you've got 5 North players who are spread out across the map, not giving away anything. And in fact, Volda's positioning is going to catch out Marky. That's inevitable. Might have been worth it to sit back and play the long game against North, where you've got a 3-0 lead. You've got money to work with to some extent. If they had saved the 2 AKs, they would have been in a much better position, because now, as I mentioned, Volda, unlike what we saw from Complexity, knows bombs down, that's fine, but goes to the approaches and shuts out map control in doing so.
What's saving grace from Gale Force is that they will have money to buy, but they need to find a way to get past MSL. This was such a successful lockdown. Just 3 kills, no contest, really. I mean, ultimately, of course, they go for those walls of smokes over onto that B bomb site, and you thought maybe that they'd be able to execute in quickly, be able to push over towards platform and find some room to work with, but that's just not the case. They get completely bottlenecked, completely choked out, and yet they're gonna head back towards the B site yet again. Pump the brakes slightly as they do contest towards platform. North not getting too ambitious, though. They're just gonna hold their own and allow for Config to try and find this pick.
Shot through the door from Config, nearly lands. Second approach, equally as close. That one does hit. Shin bones of Marky through the door. Make him think twice about re-peeking the position and backing off his Config immediately after throwing the Molotov. Marky, however, has done his job in the fact that he's held both AZ and Config on the A site. Therefore, it's Cajun and Volda, and MSL toward the drop, who's playing it passively to hold off the B site. Aggressive play, traded back by Cajun, but they can't afford to lose too many players. Cajun steps back up, bomb down. Tootin tries to do what he can to control drop, but he's left very low on HP, and great response from Config should spell the end of the round.
Yeah, Tootin's going to try to entry back into connector, but a 1 versus 3, sitting on only 28 health. He should not have much of a chance. The double flash allows the exit, but Config shuts it down. So another successful round here from North. I mean, sure enough, Gale Force with a bit more success getting those 2 kills, causing North to stay stagnant over on that A site, and at least making them work for their round, but it ultimately still goes the way of the CTs.
Valda's read the economy. He's gone for everyone's favorite weapon, the MP9. No armor. Penetration, not a factor. 1 CZ to go against. 2 Deagles. He's going to get aggressive as Config does the same. Still with this double up setup, working out well. Config until now goes down to a Deagle. Marky, if he can get toward the AWP, can be a factor even without the armor. Thankfully, it's being babysat by AZ. 2 quick kills, and that'll shut down the round once more. It's about John Boy finding economy advantage at this point with the P250. Unlikely. So 3-3 and a 3-round loss bonus. And a full buy coming in next for Gale Force, but I'd like to see them slow it down. All of the previous rounds, okay, yes, this one with pistols, I won't harm them or foul them on Setch, but most of the rounds have been pretty much concluded, or at least the impact kills have been done before the 1 minute mark.
Yeah, I'd love to see them actually get the op in the hands of Johnny Boy and just allow for him to try and go for some counter picks, especially seeing as North have been going for this double op setup, and that we saw kind of mid-round last time Cajun B get aggressive on that platform. So if they can read into those kind of late aggression plays, then maybe they'll find an opening off of it. But for now, they're just going to have to, again, buy into the pistols. The quadruple deagle, single P250, and a flashbang maybe to trigger a push. Config able to leg the first man round the corner. And of course, all of the forces on the T side are sitting over at A. Oh, there it is, follow-up shot, nicely done. Chudi's been dropped out of this one, and Gale Force actually get convinced to fall back towards B. Now they have no information as to what's been going on here, so you can't help but wonder, like, they'll have to take their time.
So sit back again. Money, as it were. Sit full buy. They like to go longer games to get more utility, so this one, pretty straightforward cleanup again for North. Now they'll sit to, like you said, get the op onto John Boy. Full set of nades. This, again, I want to see pace slow down. Because North, especially if they're not going to show respect, if Config's going to play this double op aggressively toward A, they'll catch them out. They should be able to find picks on that alone. So long as they have the aim and can catch off North players. Let's not rule Config's skill out of it.
That's one thing that's really cool about, I think, the Cajun config double op setup is that you have one player who loves to be aggressive on the op, and then another one that just can play that more patient angle holding game. So a nice reflection of one another here from North on their oppers. We'll see if either can be caught off by Johnny, who is currently positioned over on A, hoping that someone just walks to the bottom side of the door. Config had done that in previous rounds. So there's a read here, but no success as of yet from either side, 5v5.
Better pace. 5 players still alive, minute to work with. Now they start to exploit D. They've established 2 players into drop. MSL's going to play it passively, but give information to Volda. Cajun's giving up long B, so there's actually less information for North at this point in time. Very standard setup. It's not a problem on Cobblestone, especially not if you find the first kill from MSL. Issue more so for Gale Force is they use a lot of utility just to get position, but they aren't using utility to get the picks.
Of course, having lost 2 players, their hands going to be tied towards this B site. So much damage dealt, but again, they continue to fall until Tootin takes 1. However, there's still 4 to find. North able to anchor the bomb site. Cajun B in the coop. Johnny gets the shot through the wood, but he's still standing. Gale Force able to just stagnate here as they try to entry in. They've got 10 seconds left. They need to make the move. Now, all of a sudden, North are all around them yet again. Not hitting it quickly, taking their time, and it ultimately costs them.
Thankfully, money not a factor, because actually Cajun B missing that shot allowed Johnny to get 1 more kill onto MSL, but as I say, North's pretty loaded as it is. Not a big deal. If that was a late game situation in a 12-12 game, that kill would be a bit of a problem perhaps for North. Either way, 5-3, pretty straightforward since the guns have come up. All AKs this time, no AWPs for Gale Force to work with on the max loss bonus after buying in the previous. Math is a set. No bomb plant means no extra $800, means no AWP. Volda aggressive behind smokes will go toward the arch. Sprays in, and actually with the last stray bullet, a little RNG will give him a headshot onto Chudi. And he gets away with that too. And remember, a lot of players getting away from the A1S. So they would have been able to read the fact that he was in the arch. The ability to get 1 kill means he can fall, change angles, and they can control the pace yet again on the north side. Continuing to play it passively at the window as MSL, but more aggressive this time. I reversed that, actually. It's Config playing aggressive. Either way, same position. It's aggressive toward the E-box, so they won't even allow them to get any entry points.
Ooh, just locking down the drop is North, one after another. Gale Force unable to entry in. I mean, we saw them successfully hold those players at the A site in previous rounds. This time, they don't even put any attention towards it. Entirety of their forces heading over towards B. There was that spray here from, or rather onto the head of Chudi. We saw again, kind of mid-round here, Cajun B get aggressive on platform with that op, try to post up. Doesn't net him a kill this time around because everybody trickles into the drop room, but that's where all 5 died. Tough spot to be in is now they'll, again, invest into the Deagles and Kevlar, head straight towards the B site, no pressure at A, And they're smoked off yet again. It's North now to use these preemptive nades.
Volta tries to spray in again. He's got the lineup as well. John Boy Tag gets a second one through the smoke. In two consecutive rounds, he holds off the archway, and he's got support from Cajun on top of the site. Smoke dissolves. I know it's pistols, but good positioning and read from Volta as he finds 4. To have an ace. Came close with automatic last game as well in a more spectacular fashion, but another 4K to add to that total.
At least Gale Force are back into their buy. Okay, they've got their op, they've got their full utility. It surprises to me yet that they haven't found a solution to pushing MSL to that windowsill. I mean, I think we've seen as of late that 2-man boost inside drop down that allows you to look downwards onto that angle. Because it's a very tough position to kind of, you know, unroot players from. See if he's allowed to successfully hold another time. But it seems like Gale Force want to head over towards the A side early on, putting 4 of their players in this direction, but they could be walking into an early 3-man stack from North. They tend to make a lot of noise towards drop down, and that'll allude to the eventual B hit. North, having not heard anything this round, well, they're content to stay at A.
Locked in a corner, Config. He won't be held and contained so easily. Pops back out, finds one. AZ's able to control from danger, so even when they go back toward A. What a read from North. How aggressive is that? Boost in the corner, op, and a rifle down below. There's no entry. Smoke thrown from Config. Although it supports AZ, actually does allow John Boy to cross with bomb. So they do get at least to the tunnels. Cajun's been watching from platform. He's not gone in to get more map control. Probably could have justified doing so based on the aggression at A, but no need to take unruly costs. Risks? Costs? Risks, I think is the better word. Now has contact. This will force rotation. He'll know there's going to be 2. And needs to be cautious, though, that there is an AWP in John Boy, so doesn't go beyond the corner. Doesn't want the angle back. Just wants to hold the advance. It's what he's done, and Volta collects as soon as they arrive.
So many times now, North are just starting to kind of re-peek and re-aggress into Gale Force. I can't help but feel like they've, you know, felt out their opponents coming into this matchup. There's no way they have any clue as to what to expect, but now they know that they're just going to be able to clearly assert themselves on that individual level. I mean, Volta jumping up onto the platform as those last remaining players try to entry. We saw, obviously, AZ over towards the A site, locking down the door, re-pluming his smoke, and just spraying through it. Just so confident in their play right now, as they should be. I mean, again, Gale Force, massive underdogs. But here, of course, we have Kamikaze being verbal with his support. He's actually from Spain.
Is he?
Yep. Barcelona, to be precise.
Barcelona.
Yep.
I went there once.
How was it?
I want to say amazing, but I didn't get time to see it all. I feel like it would be amazing.
Isn't that the tragedy of these kinds of events? You get to go to all these beautiful places, but never enough time to...
Many tragedies in my life, but yes, that's one of them. Always seem to have a Spanish passion about him. He's going to have to face a boost from Config, who's heard them all going under. Doesn't read it right based on sound. One more player catches him off, doesn't hit the no-scope. If he did, he would have been standing in the open behind and have a shot down to the gallery. However, they walk in and it's still an equal slaughter. Volta and MSL. Although Volta goes down, each find 2. Tootin is just waiting to die at this point, or is he? Because it is still a 1 versus 2. Let's not rule it out as Config managed to stay alive and gets back just in time to get the final kill.
Yet again, aggressive plays across the board. Config obviously getting boosted up from drop. That's very ambitious.
I will admire one thing from Gale Force, and that is, unlike Complexity, we're seeing differences. Even Cloud9 didn't have to change much up on Train. Now, admittedly, there aren't as many executions you can do aside from smoke sets. Here, it's about pace. Gale Force has slowed it down, tried to play picks. Okay, they got shut down. They then tried to play an execution where they got inside a drop. Fortunately, got shut down. Now they go very quickly, try and catch them off, and they boost up Config. They're at least trying things, and they're at least trying to adapt, which is something that a lot of teams struggle to do in the lower tiers. So it shows me they have at least a game plan in the back of their mind.
It's for that reason that I'm excited just to see how this entire group, you know, ends up panning out, because we have CLG and Kingwin also here with them. So versus North, clear-cut victor. Versus the other teams, at least slightly more of an upset potential, maybe, depending on what we see from them here today. And again, we can praise the depth of their playbook and their resilience as well, not to kind of give up. However, individual level, not quite there. Config looking for the op shot as Valde opens up.
He's flashy even when he's not, if you know what I mean. He might not hit the shot, but it's just fun to watch him try, especially when he's just constantly no-scoping. That's about his 8th attempt in a row. Maybe one too many, maybe 7 too many, but either way, they'll make up for it. AZ and MSL get back in position. Passive aggressive, hold from the defensive side of mid, and AZ collects to make it now 10-3 for North. Money's never been a factor, everyone's got 16K. On the other side, it still continues to be 1. As with the loss round bonus, they at least get a knock back up on John Boy.
Oof, they haven't even found a bomb plant. Another chance. Maybe they'll throw us something new yet again. They are going to head out 3 towards A. We've seen that before, but they've left the drip bomb in B.
Kevin Aiello is calling you out. He says Kamikaze is not from Barcelona. He's from Buenos Aires, but he worked in Spain.
Ah. When I met him, he was living in Spain, so I had just assumed.
Ask you me.
I know. At least I've been corrected.
It's true. That tends to happen on Twitter quite a bit.
Yep. Learning curve.
I don't mean just for you. I mean in general. You always have one. Shiro, and we'll wait at the top of drop. Push up from Volda. This time they get aggressive at B. They haven't done that too often, I should say. Held the angle by Cajun. He's babysat and able to push. Goes back around. He'll support MSL at drop, hoping he's funneled them at least that far. He's funneled them further than that. All of the bomb waits in the tunnels. The rest have gone toward A to try and combat Config, who once again has problems in the corner. And he will burn alive, almost burns alive. He was downed either way. Marky will get the shot. I don't know what he was hoping for. I think Config's just kind of fooling and flirting with the idea of getting late kills.
Oh, here's something new. Gale Force with a man advantage. And as opposed to just executing in and just walking into what was the North rotation, they decide to just pump the brakes, rotate back towards B. We've seen this before, that late B hit. And of course, they're still going to have the utility to go for this. Lots of smokes.
This is a good read. This is actually even better, so it's not even over toward B. This is knowing there's going to be rotations and then trying to play it on the single anchor on A. The problem is they lost the most important duel of all of them, and that was toward long. If they'd won that, it would have been a sitting man in the open and the site open. Instead, they take the risk and have to go toward the blender. 12 seconds. I admire slowing it down, but they have to get the bomb planted, and Yashiro will commit to doing so. Fights back, has subtle information that has timed and away because he no longer has track of where the 2 players are, and Vold is able to pull it back. It's not a bad call. Going to B would have worked fine as well. They based it on the anchor of the player at A and knew the defense was going to be split into either a 3-man setup with 1 in mid to rotate, which is what they did face, or a 2-1 based on rotations and deep kills on A. And that's strictly because if you kill a player at long, you have to bring at least 1 over to Romeo or Murder Hole to cover the second. So it's a good read to slow it down. It's a good read to anticipate rotations. The one thing that they just got wrong was getting the kill at long, the most important of all. If the player at long had waited 2 seconds longer, had a distraction, had a bait, that might have worked perfectly for them.
One last chance here from Gale Force. Yet again, a similar buy. Never actually opting in for more than this one op, which makes absolute sense. I mean, North are just pummeling them at this point. Look at this, pure aggression from Config all the way through A. Finds an opening in the defense of Gale Force and just looks to exploit it. Meanwhile, the players over towards the B site, they're just waiting to receive what will be the Gale Force push, but Config might get behind them before that ever occurs. Marky's able to open up with 1, and Gale Force across the kill feed, but Config to the backside, and now he's all that's left. He needs the clutch. 1 versus 3. He walks through the fire, walks through the flames, and he's actually got himself all the way towards this site. Now, of course, the man up close would be Tootin. Chuty towards the rock. But there we have it. Gale Force finding 4.
I feel like Config was waiting for that 1v3 the whole game to try and get himself that moment, but unfortunately does try and bait him out correctly to the stairs. Goes down, better play, fast play that time from Gale Force that wasn't caught out by an early boost. And they finally get themselves a gun round. It's only the 4th of the game, and it's not much different than we expected. But again, I have to look at the strong points on the Gale Force side, and that is that they have at least some pace, they have at least some communication and idea of what they want to do. They're just lacking either timing, or I'll be blunt and say some of the skill to do it against some of these players. Obviously, they're losing a lot of aim duels. Volda through the smoke as well as just reading the timings too predictably. But there's definitely a foundation under the team, which is encouraging at the very least.
And a foundation that they've actually had the composure to employ. I mean, not just falling into a trend whatsoever throughout that entire half. Trying and trying until eventually something worked out. I mean, they almost had that 14th round, had it not been for the player dying off of long A. They ultimately walk away with the 15th round as well. So there was definitely an improvement over the time of the half, which, as you said, is something worth praising. However, it is a massive comeback that Gale Force now face. 11-4. interesting buy. Johnny Boy, no kit, but actually the CZ frag. Maybe to play the drop down.
John Boy, if they go drop, oh, if they'd walked up, does actually get them. I thought that was going to be early. That's perfect because John Boy has boom. Teuton supported. Not a bad way to throw a nade, landing straight at their feet.
I like that. That was a nice play. Yet again, something worth praising, but we'll see if it does pan out as MSL looks to fire back into the drop down. Instead, he's pushed out. It's going to be all on Cajun. He too swept under the rug. Gale Force blow right through them.
Kamikaze likes it, trying to get themselves pumped up. The good news, I just want to say this now, Stunna, is if they win all 3 rounds after the pistol or with the pistol this time, that would put them on 7, and I would be right. So that's all that matters.
You have a point.
Sorry, Stunna. It's just how it's going to be. Cajun B not electing to buy armor, obvious reasons. I'll let you figure that one out for yourselves at home. What could he possibly need money for? Shiro will wait at the bottom of middle with a UMP. Speaking of money, he can farm some with that, but they'll go a slightly more passive. John Boy as well, watching from APC toward long to bail out Gishiro if he gets stuck down on the ramp. And does so with FAMAS. So they bring out rifles for specific roles and positions, which SK didn't even elect to do on this map. Last week, they went 5 SMGs and it cost them in one particular round.
Johnny Boy's going to flash his teammate into lower. Gishiro takes the peek, but he finds no targets for it.
Question is you have to sometimes be cautious in the fact that lack of information doesn't necessarily mean information elsewhere. If you don't know, you just don't know. It doesn't mean they're over toward B, so no early and aggressive rotation, although John Boy did start to consider it and had left in the fact that he didn't see anyone. They could not clear long. So sometimes you can't be overeager because this could cost them. The fact that John Boy does get back to the site without getting impeded means that they still control the bomb plant and they can force North back. So no harm, no foul in the end.
Cool. Config, though, he's got another chance. He wanted to clip at the end of that last half. Can he start this one with it? No. Teuton takes him down. And Gale Force do convert that opening pistol round. Of course, they do sustain losses as well. 3 players down at the end of it. North content with that. Would have loved an extra bomb plant, of course. But now it's up to Gale Force to maybe get some cash flowing their way. Judy with the MP9, up on Marky. Still rifles for 3, so assuming those 3 players stay up at the end of this, Gale Force with a decent start. They also had this kind of a successful start in the first half, and we know how that ended up. But again, by minimizing their mistakes, they're able to convert these rounds, and there's something to praise in there in and of itself. Too often than not, that second round force buy swings the other way.
Yeah, North doesn't need to get themselves in that position. CT side, that's more the case. T side loss round bonus is more sufficient in helping. It also has the bomb that can add money to the bank account. They've got a lead. They've got less expensive weapons, ahead of them that they're going to be purchasing, so they'll be fine letting this go. It goes to 11-7. 4 rounds between them. North doesn't pick up this gun round. Maybe there's something to argue. That's one as well. When you're a massive favorite and you have a guy like Config who's been playing a rather loose style, if I dare say, in this game, maybe we'll just leave it at that. It can start to crumble because you get arguments going on in the team as to why you're not winning this game the way you should, and sometimes blame gets passed around. Cajun B, by the way, after talking him up, only has 6 kills. Admittedly, hasn't had to do much in the AWP because they're usually getting shut down before they arrive on the B site, but still.
Nice to see Gale Force going towards B site early on, trying to get ahead of any kind of an aggressive push, leaving Johnny to spot lower A. They throw out their utility, they assume control of the platform. Nice little textbook setup. However, it's mid-round that I fear North has a significant edge over Gale Force. They should be able to read into the defense and go from there. Speaking of the defense, they now have 2 players over on this A site. Marky's been called over as he sits on 39 health, so he'll make for a great A site anchor. Just sit back behind those boxes and never reveal yourself until you absolutely have to fight. Of course, if Johnny Boy can knock a couple players down on their entry, then reposition towards Balk, he can actually watch both lower and then long, drawing attention.
Chudy has all the information that he needs.
This is it.
There's no sighting of anyone else, but they've gone so passive on being he's so far forward. There's only one possible point of approach. No rotating back. John Boy gets ready for it. Backs off in the op a little bit earlier than perhaps I would have expected him to do so with so many rifles in the sight. That forces Tutin to relocate because they can't play the same position. Thankfully, Gale Force make up for it. Find kills elsewhere. Cajun's a sitting duck on the site. Bomb goes down. No plant. And 11-8. Now we've got an argument in this. Kamikaze thinks so.
It's one of the things that I love about Kamikaze the most is just his sheer energy. I genuinely think he believes they can win this. And he believed it before the game even started. And when you have somebody in your ear that speaks of you so confidently, you know, people say it's a mental game, and I do put some weight behind it. You obviously have to follow suit with skill and success, but there's at least a starting point.
Oh, that's a starting point.
Yep.
MSL, great deagle shot. Gishiro as well playing aggressive against the anti-eco. That's the rounds that can cost you because MSL gets a gun for free. Doesn't have armor, so expect that he'll try and get that over to a teammate should the time present itself to do so because they're going into B. He's still over toward A. At this point, it's all about kills on entry for AZ to start it. Judy traded out by Config's deagle. Sight open, problems ensue because guns are picked up all over the map now for North.
Johnny Boy's gonna miss that first shot as the bomb tries to cross. The repeat will not net him the stopping of the plant. So, a flub on the side of Gale Force. They've given it up versus only pistols. We said there was an argument to be made, but the North's voice is louder.
Yeah, too aggressive off the start today. And as soon as that gun went down, they started to rotate off as well without any other information, without any other point of contact, well outside of the site. No need to panic. They get separated, so even though the gun wasn't on the B site, there just wasn't enough to get, wasn't enough players, I guess, to overwhelm North's entry. And if you give away that economy, you've just given them a second chance. You had all the momentum going for you. John Boy wants to save the AWP. That's going to be unlikely with 6 HP and a second player approaching from danger. Cajun gets him down, grabs the op for himself. Thank you very much for the round.
Now, we saw resilience from the side of Gale Force in the opening half as they changed things up over and over, but how do you survive an upset like that last one? Obviously, if the cash was there, they'd buy right in and try to be back into their groove, but they're going to have to buy up into only pistols. Couple of grenades to play off of, double frag, double flash, but again, massive advantage for North now, not only in what should be a 5-point lead, but especially this round. At least Gale Force do get aggressive on platform. They distract long enough for Gishoro to push up, but then he's taken out. Quick 2 kills here for North, leaves this one 5v3. And North, well, they don't do what Gale Force did, and that's play passive. They sit back, they don't want to offer up any early weapons. Instead, they assert themselves. They'll group back up into a 5 versus 3, and there's no chance they lose this. No real chance, that is.
Shouldn't be, yeah. Anything goes wrong at this point in time, it would be pretty spectacular. Still no North, even though they know they have this advantage, they're taking no incentives, excuse me. Words are tough. To walk into anything that could be left over for crossfires of the pistols as all the Molotovs go down to clear angles, bombs planted, they'll back off, keep 5 alive, don't even need to pursue the pistols. They want to build their economy to finish this game. They'll go to 13 rounds, 3 to go. Config nearly gets caught out with timing. He's trying to use the flash not only to blind anyone inside a murder hole, but bait the vent noise. That's actually kind of clever, and it works. Does find Marky with it. Again, though, as Config, we talked about this with he and Majiska's teammates, always risky. He has guns, they have pistols. There's not really much justification if they've taken down 2 guns as well. And one of them is the AWP. That's going to be recovered just barely by AZ. Oh, I say that. Okay, he did get it. He did get it.
Shuffles them around, but good opportunity for Gale Force to take another pause. Now, when they took their first pause on the T side last half, we saw them come into the round with a completely fresh play. They charged out towards platform. They changed up both the pace and the timing of who went where and when. Again, very vocal as Kamikaze. So, if you can piece together some kind of a CT setup, if they have any kind of one-off gimmick, now's a perfect round to throw it. Certainly safe to say the lead's been established for North, but it's never too late. 'Cause 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 and I do like that they prioritize the op on Johnny. I think that's, again, a crucial piece of the success that we'll sometimes see from Gale Force. But he is Glass Cannon, no utility.
Chudy goes aggressive. So Tuda's north, timing favors Config as he beats the CTs to position, but he's ready for it, fires back in, is able to win off the duel. That'll slow North's approach, or will it? They certainly don't seem to think so. They're gonna push through, smokes down, wall out. They want the fast plant. The default position has 4 players to defend, but AZ has a read. Chudy has the timing, back through the smoke, no flash necessary, catches them off in the plant, and it's down to Cajun B in a 1 versus 4. Smoke, it's still up, which actually means Gale Force can get closer to the AWP and put more pressure onto Cajun's position as he sits to find 1. Spray through the box, gets a second, but immediately traded back.
Nicely done. Gale Force able to find kills through smokes there, just knowing, of course, the angles and the timing of North's push. They stomp it down. Obviously, North, they just set up, went for that nice wall of smoke execution. You could see how the players from Gale Force were forced to fall back, but I like that they only fall back into to the other side of the smokes after finding the 5 versus 4. They forced the fight, then they reeled backwards, and then even catch players with timing. Chudy doing a good job of not only replacing his downed teammate on that edge of the smoke, but then also, again, as we saw just now, spamming through the smoke itself and trying to find the bomb planter after the fact. So Gale Force back on the board, 1 short of double digits, which would be an accomplishment in and of itself versus a team like North.
Easy ready this time. This is what got them off, because the last time they went to B, it was a late push to stairs. First wall of smoke we've seen. Breakpoint again for North. Likewise for Gale Force. North win this. Effectively, they'll land on map point before guns are able to be brought out without a force from Gale. But Gale's going to start it off. Good shot, Config. John Boy getting it on the AWP. Cajun, meanwhile, with the op, gets into drop. Those are shots Cajun has to hit at this point in the game as well. He has brought his total up to 11. He's gotten a little more aggressive on the T side. More presented to him again. He didn't really have to do much on the CT side. His position was sort of last resort and a passive approach. But now on entries, especially a man down, he has to hit those. More so would shoot. He's got a line up from the front of the broken wall. He just sprays down 2. Cajun gets 1, stays alive, but has company outside at the rock, and he has 23 HP. 40 seconds, another missed shot that he cannot afford. And they certainly cannot afford it on the north side altogether. Money is gone. It's 3 rounds between them.
3 rounds between North and Gale Force, 23 rounds deep. I mean, there's always an argument to be made that when you win both pistols and you can convert each time, that's a 6-0 lead, regardless of the outcome of the gun rounds. And that's what Gale Force currently have in their pocket. So that is a great kind of building point for the rest of this matchup. And you'd assume that seeing as they only got 1 round after in the opening half, it was done for. Now, let's be real. North still have ample opportunity to kind of adapt to what's been thrown their way. And you would hope that of a team with this caliber that they definitely have that depth. We've also seen them successful on pistols already, so let's not count them out as they come charging into the B site. Chudy gets overwhelmed, and that's not a good look because Cajun takes another. It's a man advantage already for North, but at least the bomb's been dropped. Gale Force with a chance to slow things down as Gishoro removes Config from the top of the tree.
Problem is the bomb. If they had that planted, such a good position from Volda. They'll Molotov it off, buy more time. He still sits behind the door on a single AK. They need to pull Gale Force toward this site. No one watching yet. No one watching the bomb. And overcommitting toward it because of AZ's position will allow exactly what they need. And Volda becomes the hot heel in this. Aside from going to be tunnels, are boosting right now in drop, which they have done. John Boy, he's looking to do it. If they could have done it sooner, that would have been the play, because they have to go by Volda no matter what at this point.
That flash could have been powerful, but Shoro blinds himself. Valde finds Marky on the entry, and now it's just down to Johnny. North, while giving up rounds to Gale Force, while allowing them to find double digits is one thing, they've been very successful on only these pistols. 2 rounds now at that B site. They've just completely obliterated any kind of a defense. If only Gishoro hadn't flashed himself, because he knew AZ was in that corner. He had it in timing and everything, but completely blind, he was useless.
Could you say they took the winds out of their sail?
I think you could.
It's good. It's good. I like that one.
We'll see if they can maybe hold back. I mean, it is going to be a piece together by Johnny. Finds one, and a dink to follow suit. So damage has been done, but North are on the cusp of this A site. Gishoro to the corner, gets rubbed out real quick, and now it's just down to the single FAMAS of Chudy and the CZ of Teuton.
Tagged up as well. Teuton has to be forced off another bomb plant. Map point surely on the cards for North. Next kill has to go Gale Force's way if they want any chance or any argument. No money left at all, and AZ takes down Teuton. It's Chudy. He's been solid. He's found multiple kills, but he has to make the educated decision. Play the odds, play the game with a gun, and run with it, because that's the only gun at this point that they'll be able to have on the CT side. It'll be forcing around it with what will only be a second round loss bonus. So looking to get $1,900. They're pistol territory around this FAMAS for map point.
Yeah, that's the one massive difference between this outcome and the last time Gale Force lost to pistols and had to start saving, was that they hard saved directly afterwards in order to get back into the guns, and then won a round due to that. This time, they try to make that force buy happen in order to deny the overtime point from North, but it slipped through their fingers regardless. So very difficult spot for Gale Force to actually make 5 rounds back on the board.
Good effect from Volda on the way through. Timeout called, 3rd or 4th for Gale Force. No reason not to use it. Go for UMPs as well. But even that's going to be hard. Yeah, so only 2 UMPs. A deagle brought out for Gishiro. Marky's yet to do anything. Just a 5-7. So this is tough, considering that they had a chance to really take control of the economy. They almost broke North down, completely whittled them away, and brought this to a tie game at 13-13, is how that could have looked if they'd won when it was 13-10.
Yeah.
It's fallen apart since.
They had 2 significant chances to actually put more rounds on the board. And it's wild enough to say that it's 15-10 between these 2 teams, let alone had those minor mistakes not happen. Well, minor. Losing versus pistols. That's something big. We'll see if they can make it happen. 2 umps, 2 pistols, and a single FAMAS for Chudy. I mean, they don't even have the utility, which has been very important in slowing down North before. But it seems like North are content to slow things down on their own terms.
John Boy backs off behind smoke. Concedes the fact that MSL's gone in to the drop room. A good attempt to throw the Molotov out, force him to the right. Chudy has to trade. If they could have gotten that kill for free, they'd be much better off considering the weaponry. Unfortunately, they go a man down. They try and rotate all hands on deck toward the B site, but it's AZ and Cajun that will slow the pace and await the rotations aptly so. Oh, not yet planted. Volda tries to end it all by getting 2 kills in behind the rock. They know exactly where they are. Walking in through the door, 1 remains. Gia Sherman, good shot on the deagle. Remember, limited to it, didn't have a gun. Has it down to a 1-on-1. He's actually tagged up Config. He's got an argument. He's not done at all. This game might be going at least 1 more round as it's 7 HP. And they love the fact that it's still alive and they can play for overtime.
They live for this. To be on the stage, Gale Force actually making that happen. Look at this second shot. First one's crisp. Oh, he walks back into it. He stutter steps. And I thought for sure when that last bullet came out of the magazine of Gishoro, when he took down his opponent to 7 points of health, that Config could have re-peaked and overwhelmed on the reload, but that's not the case. Fresh clip in, and a fresh face on Kamikaze. You saw how deflated he looked at the opening of that, what could have been last round, but now he's realized, as has the entirety of Gale Force, this is still on the line. They are 4 rounds short with a bye on the cards.
They used the 3rd timeout last round. I guess to good effect. I'm not sure how much the timeout had to do with it as they discussed the buy. This time they'll use the 4th, and they've got more to go with it. Because it's not 2 pistols. This time it's an AKM4 and 3 SMGs. Slightly better, but still problems as North remains in control of both the economic situation and the rounds. Marky tries to rotate back over, quickly goes back through E-Box, even though the smoke's down early. They're going to wrap it the other direction. Bomb down. Volda held it. He was the first one in position. That's a problem because they've lost 3, and bomb in connector. The wind's certainly changing, and the Gales gust hard because it's now going to be the Argentinians that are going to take all the money away from North and go 15-12. Imagine they hadn't lost on 13-10 when it was Volda to get behind the doorway with the single AK. Imagine they hadn't conceded the entries. This could have been their game.
What's wild to think is that it might actually still be theirs. At least overtime would be a proving grounds for Gale Force. No matter the outcome, they've certainly left a mark versus North. As all of a sudden things slow down significantly so. 45 seconds left to play. Markey looks away, but flicks back in time to catch the head of Config. Bomb still in the possession of Gale Force, but it's Cajun B that they have to deal with, and he's over on plat. Nice to see Johnny Boy give up that flank for now. Checks drop in order to ensure that no one's in there. But Cajun B's directly underneath him. 25 seconds to play with.
No, don't.
Sees it.
This is better. To take the trigger discipline and might as well try and go for it. Secure the kill because he knows they're going to be watching toward the bomb. But he realizes 18 seconds. Bomb still down connector. Get away. Economic damage by finding 1 kill. No need to overcommit. Keep the AWP. 1 AWP we know can be enough. Maybe not so much on Cobblestone. It's not the best map for it, especially on a T side. But if he can get aggressive and find an opening pick in the next round, it's North's best opportunity rather than him committing, losing the AWP for no reason at all, and having nothing to work with. And now it's North's turn to call a timeout.
You know, it's wild to think, but if we throw back this moment to when Gale Force, then Miami Flamingos, were kind of...
Which is a great name, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, this is even prior to Flamingos, right? This is prior to their move to North America. It's the LAN result that netted them the opportunity to make that move. It all comes from TW 2016, when they walk into an event, nobody knows who they are. There's no real emphasis being put behind their presence. It was a, what are they going to accomplish here versus, you know, mind you, pug teams from Sweden and France and the likes, but just a completely different skill caliber. And now they're a team. They're showing up to another event where they're immediately written off, and duly so. They're versus North. But they've put a significant amount of rounds versus the Danes. And that's something nobody would have seen coming. As you said, imagine if they hadn't thrown those pistol rounds. They hadn't let that slip.
Well, North with the AWP has 6150 on Galda. Can't quite see. I imagine because it's tactical, everyone's got. I say tactical. Hang on, though, because we've been over 30 seconds, so I wonder if there's another issue. So I won't go into the buy, is my point, because I can't see if everyone's still got headsets on. I don't want to reveal anything, because they're not in booths this event. But I almost want to see something different from North. They went for the one single smoke execution and get caught off by Chudy pushing back through it. I have to say very well equipped and well timed to do so. Caught them off in the plants on B. It might be time to less so go for execution, but more of a set default smokes toward top connector and have Config try and open up a pick toward A, because they haven't been putting enough pressure on the A site to make even Gale consider the fact that they have to be late on the rotations, that they have to leave someone to anchor the site. They've had 4 players rotating inside the confines of the B site before entries have even occurred in most cases, unless they happen so quickly, in which, of course, they can't even answer and can't trade. But that's not been the case in the last 3 rounds. It's the unpause called. Never got confirmation as to what the issue may have been, but we'll get back underway and you'll see the money as quickly as I can mention it, so I'll go into it. Now, Cajun's got the AWP saved. Obviously, Valda has enough for an AK-47. AZ has enough for a rifle as well. SMG for MSL, buy for Config is going to be utility, not going to elect to go anywhere beyond the CZ. Unless I missed a gun being dropped to him, which I may have done. So I think the issue, okay, so now they're getting their tactical. So I think the issue may have actually been that they had a TeamSpeak issue, obviously due to the fact that coaches can't talk during regular technical timeouts or regular rounds, so it might have been an unmute issue. But no gun that I can see for Config.
No, I took a look as well. I think it's it. He's just on the CZ.
That'll have to be enough. Single op, John Boy has it. Yoshiro goes back over toward long A. Config and MSL are going to work that side of the map, so they'll spread more into a default on the north side, but John Boy again gets the opening pick. For too many rounds in a row, they've had the opening pick against North. Excuse me, my cough button didn't work.
Well, you're excused.
Let's not do that again.
North at this point, obviously set reeling backwards, having lost Valde, but at least now Config has his gun. Utility was healthy as well. We've seen, of course, some nice mid-round adaptations from North. We saw those setups on the execution of the B site, the wall of smokes that forced Gale Force back. Speaking of Gale Force, little utility, but at least they have another kill as Gishoro finds one on A. That leaves North to entry on the B site. Teuton looks to hold down on the statue as Cajun Beast desperately seeks a target.
North looks hesitant. They're relying on picks. And a Molotov to locate and push them out back to the statue isn't going to work because John Boy has AZ. Cajun still can't find the opener he wants, and he's the only one left alive in a 1 versus 5. The AWP saved over. Finally gets a kill, but a kill too late. As 15-13 looks to be on the cards, and money looks even more dire as they'll hit a 3rd round with no plant. Plant would do it for a 3rd round bonus on a T side, but that never even happens. They haven't gotten a plant in the last 3 rounds. This is a legitimate comeback from Gale Force. Not only have the winds turned, they are now a Gale Force.
What an incredible shot there from Johnny to kick it off. Catches the jump peak, look for information, take a bullet to the head. And now it's pistols in the 29th round. Now we cannot count this out. Despite it being only the 2 upgraded P250s, the 2 rounds that would completely change this around and give Gale Force overtime secured, of course, came off of those pistol wins. It's never too late.
Well, we've seen it too many times in CSGO, haven't we?
Yeah.
That they get limited to pistols and they just throw a Hail Mary and it works. Doesn't take much. If you can overwhelm, if you can find an approach, if there's a choke point, even slightly open. Teuton's position's pretty good here. He can actually pop out, timed with Gishoro, but he needs the support, he needs the information. He can't just be sitting there with nothing. Even a flash in would do, and this is exactly what I was talking about in finding a single approach to overwhelm. Thankfully, Marky rotates in time and cuts them off. It's Judy. It's the next in line to do so. It's Valda that's going to try and pull it back. He would need an ace to do it. Reload, not exactly the best time to do it. Take that, Customs.
Customs might stop them, but North sure can't.
Exactly. Customs couldn't either. North's going to take their 2nd timeout. As it plays for overtime, all 30 rounds required.
This is actually incredible.
Ruga looks lost. That's not a confident coach.
No, not whatsoever. I mean, when Gale Force were announced for this event, I messaged Kamikaze right away to congratulate him on the opportunity, right? This is what they've been waiting for. They've been waiting for an event to take a chance on them. And so he was so confident in predicting that they'd be able to prepare for North. And I think that's one of the craziest things, is we saw, of course, Train go through versus Cloud9, and that was, you know, a bit of a maybe mistake from Complexity. We said the same thing coming into this match, where Cobble certainly would be a great map for North. But if Gale Force have done their homework, they seem to have put that on the table. Again, those 2 rounds make a world of difference, and yet Gale Force are still here in the 30th round of regulation. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's a massive buy from North. They've got everything they could ask for, and it's going to take one last round to decide if North either walk away with an opening win, if Gale Force can try their hand at overtime.
And one major variable, finding the opening pick. Gale Force hasn't had to panic and force out a thin defense or an adaptation because North hasn't found it. And this is turning into more standardized Counter-Strike. More of what we're used to seeing, more of the tempo, information gathering that we're used to seeing. Very passive on the A site this time. John Boy essentially alone to cover off with the AWP. Tough task for one man, but he's certainly been quick with the AWP throughout the course of the game. Rotations would be quick enough for Marky if he can get toward the balcony, but a shot missed. They're going to have to start to lead that now, and it's actually Teuton at this end early. John wants the site. Gets there just before the entry comes in, and they'll hold to Stables.
But he's
He
out in the open.
overcommits. Exactly. He could be caught off as Volda gets to him back. Config's going to follow it up.
Now, of course, that 5v3, this looks great for North. Gishoro taken down as he tries to get through the fire. And all of a sudden, the hopes of Gale Force may have just crumbled. A rapid execution from North is what nets them the after plant. And Gale Force gonna have to try desperately so. It's only Marky, and he finds only one as North will cut it close, but seal the deal regardless. They go the distance, and that's something to be proud of.
That took
you
too
ask
long.
me.
It absolutely is, and we could see really good communication on the CT side. Unfortunately, it was hesitation from John Boyd. Gets caught out in the middle of the transition. That opens up the back of the site. All they need at that point is 2 smokes to lock out the rest of the players from Gale Force. It becomes relatively straightforward at that point in time based on the anticipation that it was going to be. And that's all due to the fact that North never went A. That was an overread by the Gale Force side, but the hard part of what all of this is that they come so close, and to lose in the last round after a comeback like that is oftentimes the most difficult thing to recover from. Now, thankfully, it's best of one. It's not like they're going into another game. They can reset, take the positives from this. But a very good performance overall. It's just a bitter pill to swallow, I think, at that point.
Definitely a tough spot to find themselves in ultimately towards the end. But I think that if you're Gale Force right now, you're content. You know that the other 2 teams in your group are CLG and Kinguin. You know that you have a night to kind of recompose, and that you almost just made an 11-4 comeback versus one of the best teams in the world. So there's something to be said on both sides. Nicely done by North to finally close it out, however. Congrats to them by opening up with a win.
And no one, I think, will take Gale Force lightly at this point in time as well. Complexity will play them in the lower bracket of this group, and obviously have to be sweating a little bit because they had nothing to offer Cloud9, if I'm completely frank. They didn't look like they had a foundation. Gale Force does, and they implemented it, as you mentioned, toward North, gave them a run, and put them in a position where North was struggling to close that out. Got the opening pick finally, late, but if anything, Cloud9's got to be confident, therefore, going against North tomorrow.
Yeah, by all means. I completely agree. It's definitely now all up in the air, which is wild because, again, so many people are just willing to write off Gale Force the moment they walked into this tournament. And have they ever made us eat our words?
Well, we all wrote them off, but at least I went for the over, and therefore I still win, Stunner.
Yeah, it would appear as though their North sort of harnessed their inner direction in the beginning. And then, boy, were you guys wrong with your predictions. Man, that was crazy. Just how wrong you guys were. I mean, Gale Force, please defend yourselves.
I don't understand. We all predicted basically the same thing. You were just 2 rounds ahead.
2 rounds ahead, but we were all just a little bit behind. Gale Force, an excellent showing there. Showing, I think, just quite a bit of potential, or were we looking at a sleepy North? What was going on, guys?
I think a little bit of both, maybe. Not taking them completely seriously and probably haven't prepared for them as they should have against some of the other teams at this tournament. And it's all about this being the underdog. If you grab your chance when you have it, which they for sure did, then they can make a result and actually push out a team like North.
I mean, we watched Gale Force try to grab that B plat control for so long over on their T side that it just 8 rounds away. Until they were in that big deficit going into the second half, but then fired it up and got it going.
Yeah, I mean, Chudy came up big early on in the half, got maybe 3 or 4 rounds in a row, he got multi-frags, and then Johnny Boy came alive as well. And that's really important for a team that's, up and coming or maybe unknown. You need to be able to perform at least, maybe not win, but still show signs of good performances against Tier 1 teams, and they did that, and I think that's impressive. And I don't know if they're going to be able to make it out of groups, but I think it's still good that they had this showing here against North.
I think there's something to be said also about just the experience you could probably see there between the difference between North and Gale Force, right? So North obviously using that to their advantage early on, and then later on is Gale Force sort of, dare I say, got their wind. It's something where they definitely battle back. But we're going to load up some replays right now. We got a special treat for you guys. We're going to bring Rugga in here and see what he has to say about his team and just what turned out to be quite the bout. Welcome, Rugga. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look a little frazzled. Was that one come down to the wire just a little closer than you anticipated?
Yeah, but it's always tough playing the opening matches against underdogs that has nothing to lose. And whenever you lose 2 pistol rounds, then it gets tough if you lose the following buy round. So yeah, it was a tough one.
Yeah, I mean you're a team that is known for preparing well for your opponents. Did you prepare for Gale Force?
Yeah, we did. I watched some demos of them, and yeah, we basically knew what they wanted to do on both sides. But the first buy round we had ST, I think we got a little. Yeah, we hurried it up a little too much when we did the A execute, and we didn't hold the flanks. So they knew instantly that we were coming A, and that kind of screwed with our mindset for the next following rounds. And for the last round, we knew that we just had to take away their control of platform and then do an A execute, because we have one of the strongest executes when we go to that side. So it was just about maintaining our calm and then adapting.
For sure, yeah. You're also known for like having a guy like Config, and a guy who normally likes to disrespect his opponents. Do you think that was like, did you take too lightly on the task in the sense, or was it just them playing well?
I think they played well. I think ever since like the final of Malmö, we have been a little mentally hungover. So we can also see in our online matches that whenever you play on the big stage and go home and play the online matches, it's a little harder like to prepare mentally. But I think whenever we get over like the first couple of games, I think we're solid for the rest of the tournament.
Well, even talking about the mental game, you guys sat on the 15th round for quite some time. Tell me, how do you go about keeping composure within the unit and within the team when it comes down to the wire?
I think they are experienced guys, all of them. They have been in tough situations. We have been like with our back against the wall a couple of times at the majors as well. So they have a strong mental strength. So I think whenever we keep our calm, we can beat any team in the world. And yeah, I also like, we had the opportunity of winning, I think it was when it was 15-11, where we had a 3-1 against the Eagle. And people got a little like too excited to get the last kill, and that's not good enough on this level, even though they're a like unknown team in the international scene. They're good, they're here, so you need to respect like every inch of the game against the opponents.
Absolutely, and it could have went the other way. That's for sure going without saying. Thank you for joining us, Rugga. I'm sure we'll be seeing you guys do big things over there. I'm sure I think you're matched up against Cloud9, right? So no?
They're in the other group.
Oh yeah, well, maybe I'm losing my mind. That's certainly a possibility. We're gonna load up the statistics though, as we do see Rugga off, and just kind of go over this one and bring back Hazed into the fold. Looking at this though, Pimp, which of these players stick out to you on either side of the equation?
I mean, obviously Valde sticking out with the frags. There was a few occasions where he should have been dead in some rounds, where he managed to get 2 or 3 kills where in a position where he should have been dead. You know, that comes into the fact that he's a very experienced player and he's a great player, but also that Gale Force weren't like playing up to pair in the beginning of the game. You know, as James said, like they had to get started. You know, Johnny Boy were missing the first 10-15 rounds, but he like got a chance to get into the game, especially after Judy did some nice multi-kill rounds. So overall, like Valde played a great game and he locked down the B side for the majority of the time. And again, you know, it's what Rugga said, you know, that's what happens in the first game sometimes. You take a little bit too lightly on it, and everyone in this game are good players. You know, Marquis is a guy we know, and he's not playing with completely random fellas, right? They play and live for this game. You could see that in their body language as well.
Exactly. You could see the energy with these guys. You could see that they were getting hyped. They were getting really into it there towards the end. And for it to come down to that close of a game and then ultimately lose, I don't think they should completely lose their sails in terms of, you know, the wins and the mass. But it is about that time that I give a shout out right now to the Strafe app. Go ahead and head over to the Google Play Store or the App Store and pick it up right now. Follow your favorite teams and players because that's what I do on my personal phone. So if you're not doing that at home, you're wrong, so to say. But a much closer bout than we thought it was going to be. Anything you would say going towards Gale Force at this point after that loss?
That energy that they had during the match, if they keep that, I think that'll go a long way for them. Even, you know, it's a tough loss, it's a bitter pill to swallow, but if they keep confidence and stay hyped, I think that'll be good for them.
It's one of the teams you can read a lot of from the body language. Even like after the game, you saw them smile and you saw them, oh, this was like close, but we didn't make it. You know, they're still all smiley and still like I feel like I sense that they're proud of themselves. You know, so I think it's a very good start for them at the tournament. We talked about before the game that if they can just get like a good start, make something to take away from this tournament, that'll be all good for them, and I feel they already like accomplished that in this first game.
So yeah, even with the loss there, they're able to build that sort of confidence, and maybe it can transfer over into their next matchup, which we will be doing right after this quick break. We're going to be going into Counter Logic Gaming and Team Kingwin, so make sure you don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.